Tank quiz. Know a good tank when you see one? What kind of a tank? Name, nationality. The detail may make all the difference. In peacetime, everyone's a friend, of course. Well, officially a friend. But in wartime... Hello, who's that? Quick, man, don't dither. You may not get another chance. In wartime, mistaken identity can be fatal to one's friends. All set for the first question? Right, then here goes. Here goes what? The turret's all you can see at the moment, but that's quite a giveaway, isn't it? Face forward, what do you make of our problem child? Tracks a bit narrow, aren't they? And the hull wide. Contours full of right angles. And that black square in the turret center could only mean one thing, an internal gun mantlet. All right then, play safe and look at it this way, from above. Here's the whole bag of tricks dished up for you on a plate. Hold it a moment while we have a second look. There can be no mistaking those narrow track guards, each side of a long flat rear deck, and the six-sided turret pushed well forward. That's it, of course, the Cromwell, and away he goes at anything up to 40 miles an hour if need be, one of the fastest tanks in the British Army. He won't always be sitting pretty for an identification parade, but wherever he is, look for the telltale shadows round his bogies, which are arranged 2, 1, 2. Or the square dark hole of his internal gun mantlet. That's enough for the practiced eye. Now for another. Oh, a heavy by the look of what's going on. He's only got to stick his nose out and you should know. Look him in the face then, if you want more evidence. There's that square black shadow again of an internal gun mantlet, but he can't be a Cromwell, can he, with those wide tracks and that narrow hull. From above, well, again, it's the nose that gives him away. Look how his tracks reach out in front of the hull. What about the side view? You can tell him by his turret, sides vertical and plumb amidships. But if you could see them, you'd know him by his bogies. 9 of them, tiny and evenly spaced. And what else is there that's outstanding? How about those horns? I think you'll agree he's pretty full of outstanding characteristics. You've got the name? Yes, he's the Churchill right enough. As unique as his namesake, and just as independent. As often as not, in the open, those bogies are conspicuous by their absence from view, when the Churchill looks waterborne, sailing a sea of grass. But what about this now? A different kettle of fish. That exhaust, that tapering pear-shaped turret and bin provide the first obvious clues. But maybe you're more likely to meet him at your own level. What do you make of his turret, the cupola offset left? Looks like a sloping glacis, doesn't it? And a pretty narrow nose plate. There's more than enough in that profile to give you the answer. Well, isn't there? Take it piece by piece. How about those bogies? 5, spaced 2, 1, and 2. With top rollers, 4. Under a flat hull. Add a vertical turret with sloping roof. Backed by an overhanging stowage bin. Cap it with a shallow cupola. And you've got what the sharp ones saw at first sight. A Comet 77mm cruiser tank. Born 1944 and still going very strong indeed. Now for the last question mark. Another Comet, perhaps? He's got the overhanging turret, certainly, and the cupola by the look of it, but surely a more substantial turret. Oh, very much more substantial, and the cupola's offset to the right this time. Wide tracks, large mantlet, and what do you make of the front glassy plate? As good as a nameplate if you're in the know. If he passes beneath your notice, you can tell him at once, of course, by the grill-like rear deck and the exhaust pipes over the back guards, which you can generally distinguish on the level. But, now he's broken cover, and you won't need a second glance. There's only one tank in the world with skirts like that, the new look Army style. Hiding bogies, set 2 and 4, and cut away at the back to keep them out of the mud. Long, squat turret with cupola, low, flat hull, and those skirts. Well, of course, what else could he be but a Centurion? One of the heaviest and most up-to-date of Britain's tanks, the Centurion, 45 tons of him, has 450 horsepower at his back. A tank, in short, well worth your recognition. Now for a quick once-over to be sure you've got them straight. The Cromwell VII, big bogeyed, full of sharp angles. The long-nosed Churchill with midget bogies. The Comet, left side cupola and no skirts worth mentioning. And the Centurion, right side cupola and a bit of skirt to be proud of. TANQUIZ. Spot the winner or lose your reputation in less time than it takes to ask the man beside you. A tank's just a tank to the man in the street, but it takes all sorts to make an armored force. And it's a soldier's job to know his friends when he meets them. In wartime, mistakes can be tragic. Well now, what's first on the program? Elephant, maybe. You've got to take what comes these days. But oh, there's a glimpse of his turret. Enough for the expert eye. Roundish, with a sloping face, and that shaped hull. What more need you ask? That turret now, nearly as wide as the hull. Wide mantlet, too. And the tracks looking squashed in under the bodywork. Doesn't that nose tell you anything? Rounded like a garden roller. Of course, there's no doubt about him. Everything's as clear as daylight and shadow can make it. Real big pin-box turret on a wedge-shaped hull tapering back to the rear. And from this angle it should be easy. His characteristics stand out a mile, if you know what to look for. For instance, that front, like a garden roller. Wedge-shaped hull, turret like a squashed apple, and bogies set 1, 2, 2, and 1. All this can mean only one thing, the Sherman. A contour familiar on most of the major battlefields of Europe, the 30-ton American Sherman. Rounded, tall, and in more ways than one, striking. Now for another problem. There he goes, quick, what do you make of him? First impressions are important. They may be the last. Up a gum tree? Right then, try again from the ground. There. Still no go? The experts would have a name for him by this time. Let's make him a gift horse then, and look him straight in the mouth. Oh, that's enough. And his name is... Well, what have you seen? Let's go back and look again. Turret small, flat-topped, with vertical sides, and sloping wedge-shaped front. Right, and from here, sloping front, raised rear deck, turret in the middle. With all that data, which your first glance should have given you, you won't need to stand and stare, will you, when the animal in question comes out on the level and shows you his overhanging backside, his bogies in pairs, with the rear idler grounded. And his conspicuously narrow tracks. For you've known all along, of course, that this was the Stuart VI with his 37mm. And this is still the Stuart VI, making sure that you'll know him again next time. Meanwhile, there's another monster on the move, one of the cupola species by the look of him. And what a turret! Outsize gun mantlet in front, and at the back, no ordinary hangover. Look at the right side cupola, wide turret, low slung hull, wide tracks, sloping glacis. Bird's eye view would show you the turret better. It's pear-shaped, well forward between his shoulders. And look at the air louver at his rear. Now, how many bogies? 6, yes. Set 1 and 5. And 5 top rollers when you can see them. But you can't mistake that general stature, squat and broad and massive, like an American footballer. And of course, that's it, he is American. He's the great Pershing, who stormed east through Europe in 1945 and is still one of the most formidable of transatlantic field vehicles. Hello there, something moving? Yes, and some movement too. When is a tank not a tank? Answer, when it's travelling at that sort of speed, probably, but we'll see for sure in a moment. Now we know, and the name, please. The turret should tell you, angular, slope-sided, tapering back. The turret should still tell you, flat-topped with elliptical gun mantlet. Wide mudguards at the base of a pyramid on wheels. Again that turret, six-sided. And, there's a giveaway, the deep shadowed hatchway of the opened roof. Shadows on a field vehicle show up more than they conceal. What, no name yet? Once you had noticed those well-known eyebrows over those wheels, wouldn't you recognize at once, slung between them, the familiar sugar bowl carriage of the Daimler Armoured Car? And away he goes. Yes, you'd know him, as certainly as you'd know the American Sherman when you see him, and the Stuart VI, and the American Pershing. Well, wouldn't you?